It was a moment of weakness. MIA had never intended for it to happen, but somewhere along the way, the line between what she should and shouldn't do blurred. She was in a committed relationship, one that had weathered its share of ups and downs. But recently, she had been feeling neglected, emotionally distant from her partner, Ethan. Their conversations had turned into monotone exchanges about bills and groceries, and the passion they once shared had dwindled to the point where MIA felt invisible. Then, there was Adam. Adam had been a colleague at work, and over time, their conversations became deeper. What started as casual exchanges about deadlines soon turned into emotional support sessions, each of them offering the kind of listening ear that MIA hadn't had in months. Adam knew things about her that Ethan didn't. He saw her for who she was, not just as a girlfriend, but as a person with complex emotions, desires, and dreams. One night, after a particularly difficult day at work, MIA found herself sitting across from Adam at a small coffee shop, the late-night silence between them broken only by the clink of spoons against ceramic cups. Adam reached out, his hand brushing hers lightly. It was electric, an innocent gesture that carried a heavy weight. The warmth of his touch lingered, and without thinking, MIA leaned in. Their lips met, tentative at first, then deeper, as if they were both starved for the connection they hadn't found elsewhere. Mia's heart raced, and she felt an overwhelming desire to give in. It wasn't just about sex, it was about being wanted, being seen. It was about being desired in a way she hadn't felt in so long. When Adam pulled her closer that night, the world seemed to stop. She told herself it was just a mistake, a one-time thing, but as their bodies tangled together in an abandoned apartment, MIA found herself crying out for him to keep going, begging him not to stop. She wasn't sure if it was the act itself that consumed her or the release of emotions she'd been holding back for so long. In that moment, it wasn't about Ethan or Adam, it was about her need to feel alive again. But the next morning, guilt crept in like an uninvited guest. MIA couldn't shake the shame that clung to her as she lay beside Adam. She had crossed a line she could never uncross, and now, the weight of what she had done pressed down on her chest. Adam, sensing her unease, had quietly left, leaving MIA alone with her thoughts. Mia's heart was torn between two worlds. She couldn't ignore what had happened with Adam, it felt like something that had awakened a part of her that had been dormant. But the thought of facing Ethan, of dealing with the lie she'd now carried, was unbearable. She knew she couldn't continue with both of them, but which part of her life would she have to let go of? The guilt that followed was all-consuming. When Ethan returned home, she tried to act normal, but every glance he gave her felt like a reminder of the truth she was hiding. And every time he kissed her, she couldn't help but wonder if he could somehow feel the distance between them. He never said anything, but the tension between them was palpable. Eventually, the truth surfaced. Ethan discovered the texts, the long conversations she'd hidden, the emotional ties that ran deeper than he'd ever known. It was a betrayal, and it shattered the trust they'd once built. MIA could see the heartbreak in his eyes, but it didn't make it any easier to bear. Now, in the aftermath, MIA had to come to terms with the consequences of her actions. The guilt of betraying Ethan weighed heavily on her, but so did the realization that the affair with Adam had awakened a part of her that she could never ignore. Could she rebuild her life with Ethan? Or had she already crossed a point of no return? In the end, MIA learned that emotions are messy, complicated, and not always easy to navigate. The truth about infidelity is that it's never just about a physical act, it's about the emotional chaos that comes with it, the tangled webs of desire, guilt, and regret that can ruin relationships in ways that can't always be undone. Infidelity, when viewed through the lens of emotional complexity, becomes far more than a simple act of physical betrayal. It is the result of a myriad of feelings, desires, and unmet needs that stir beneath the surface of a relationship. The emotional journey of someone involved in infidelity is not a linear path. It is filled with contradictions, where love, guilt, longing, and shame often coexist, making it difficult to navigate. For many, the decision to step outside a committed relationship isn't just driven by physical attraction but is entangled with a deeper emotional dissatisfaction. It's a desire to feel seen, appreciated, or desired in ways that their primary relationship may no longer provide. In the case of someone who feels emotionally neglected, Infidelity can seem like an escape or an opportunity to reclaim something lost. The feeling of emotional detachment can start off subtle, with small misunderstandings or increasing emotional distance between partners. Over time, this distance amplifies, and the person who feels neglected may begin searching for solace elsewhere, not necessarily because they no longer care about their partner, but because they crave the emotional connection that has dwindled. It's easy to mistake the desire for attention or affection as a need for physical intimacy, but in truth, it is often the emotional fulfillment that is being sought after. This emotional longing can create a sense of desperation, making one feel like they are living in a vacuum where their needs are ignored or unimportant. As emotions deepen, so does the complexity of the situation. The person involved in infidelity may not view their actions as betrayal at first. Instead, it can feel like a misguided attempt to feel alive again. They may rationalize their behavior, telling themselves that their actions are justified because they have been deprived of emotional intimacy for too long. There is often an internal struggle where guilt collides with the desire to experience the connection they've been yearning for. In this emotional tug-of-war, the lines between right and wrong become blurred. The act of cheating might be seen as a momentary lapse, a fleeting escape from the loneliness that has taken root over time. The emotional complexity becomes even more pronounced when the affair is not simply about physical attraction but also about emotional attachment. The person involved may find themselves developing feelings for the individual they are cheating with, further complicating the situation. This is not just about a physical act, it becomes about emotional intimacy that they didn't realize they needed so desperately. The realization that they are emotionally invested in someone else can lead to a whirlwind of conflicting emotions. On one hand, they may feel guilty for betraying their partner, but on the other, they feel validated by the affection and attention they are receiving from someone else. The guilt that comes with infidelity is often suffocating. It can manifest as a constant reminder of the deception and the hurt it will cause once the truth is revealed. The emotional burden of keeping secrets and living in two worlds, one with their committed partner and the other with someone they've become emotionally involved with, creates a profound sense of inner conflict. The person might wrestle with feelings of shame, especially if they still care deeply about their partner, but at the same time, they may not be able to resist the pull of the emotional intimacy that feels so fulfilling in comparison. In some cases, the emotional complexity leads to a sense of loss, as they are now emotionally torn between two people and two lives that seem irreconcilable. The emotional aftermath of infidelity is equally complex. Once the affair is discovered, the person who cheated may be forced to confront the full scale of the emotional damage they've caused. What seemed like an act of liberation or a temporary escape from emotional neglect now reveals itself as a betrayal that has deep consequences. The guilt intensifies as they face the pain they've inflicted on someone they once loved. The emotional complexities that led to the affair often become the focal point in the aftermath, with questions of why it happened, what was missing in the relationship, and whether the emotional void can ever be filled again. In the end, infidelity highlights the intricate nature of human emotions and relationships. It reveals how deeply intertwined emotional neglect, longing, desire, and guilt can become. It isn't simply about the act itself, but the cascade of emotions that drive and follow it. Each of these emotions, often in conflict with one another, creates an emotional landscape that can be difficult to understand, navigate, and ultimately heal from. The realm of infidelity is inherently built on a foundation of secrets and lies, and it is through these hidden layers that the complexity of betrayal deepens. When someone decides to cheat, they are not only engaging in a physical or emotional act outside of their relationship, but they are also engaging in a web of deception that grows as the affair continues. These lies are not just about the affair itself but extend to the careful construction of false narrative stories they tell their partners, their friends, and even themselves. It is through these lies that the person involved in infidelity creates a world in which they can maintain the illusion of loyalty and commitment while secretly indulging in desires or needs that go unfulfilled within their primary relationship. The first lie is often the one that is easiest to tell: the denial of the emotional disconnect that has been slowly building between partners. For many, infidelity doesn't happen overnight, it is a gradual process. As emotional intimacy fades, the person who is feeling neglected or misunderstood may begin seeking that attention elsewhere, but instead of addressing the emotional void directly with their partner, they choose to conceal their feelings. This is the first layer of the lie, pretending everything is fine on the surface, all while their emotional needs go unmet. This creates a false sense of security in the relationship, a false promise of stability, even though the emotional foundation is crumbling beneath the surface. The cheater might tell themselves that the lies are necessary to protect their partner from the pain they fear would come from confronting the truth. Once the affair begins, the lies compound. The secrecy involved in infidelity often requires a careful orchestration of time, places, and interactions. Phone calls are hidden, text messages are deleted, and meetings with the other person are disguised as work or casual outings. Every interaction is cloaked in secrecy, as if the entire world must be kept in the dark to protect not only the affair but also the fragile ego of the person involved. They may tell their partner they are staying late at work or going out with friends, masking the reality of where they are and who they are with. The act of lying becomes almost second nature, and soon, it is no longer just about protecting their partner from the truth, but also about protecting themselves from the consequences they know will follow when the truth eventually emerges. Each lie builds a fortress that, in the end, will only serve to keep them trapped in the situation they've created. The lies are not just external but internal as well. The person who is cheating often has to rationalize their behavior, telling themselves that the affair isn't really a betrayal. They may convince themselves that they are not as invested in the other person as they are in their partner, or that the affair is somehow justified because of the emotional neglect they are experiencing at home. They might downplay the emotional connection they've developed with the other person, convincing themselves that it's simply a physical need being fulfilled. These internal lies are critical to maintaining the affair, as they allow the person to continue living with the deception without confronting the deep moral and emotional implications of their actions. Without these self-deceptions, the guilt might be unbearable, and the truth would break through, forcing them to confront the reality of what they've done. Eventually, the lies begin to unravel. There is always a point where the deception can no longer be maintained, and the truth starts to emerge. Whether through a slip-up, a confession, or a partner discovering the truth, the walls of secrecy collapse, and the lies are exposed. The impact of these lies can be devastating, not just because of the betrayal itself, but because of the trust that has been destroyed. A relationship built on a foundation of lies now faces the painful reality of the deceit that has occurred over time. The person who has been betrayed is left with a sense of disbelief and hurt, as they realize that their partner's entire emotional world was hidden from them. This betrayal of trust is not only about the affair itself but about the dishonesty that permeated every aspect of their relationship. For the person who cheated, the exposure of their lies brings with it a wave of guilt and shame. They must confront not just the pain they've caused their partner but also the web of deceit they've spun in order to maintain the affair. The lies that were once protective now feel suffocating, and the person is forced to reckon with the emotional consequences of their actions. They may feel a deep sense of regret, knowing that the lies they told in order to avoid hurting their partner are what ultimately caused the greatest harm. In the end, the truth can no longer be hidden, and the person must face the reality of their choices, understanding that the lies they told have changed the course of their relationship forever. The cycle of secrets and lies in infidelity is a powerful one, creating a maze that both parties must navigate. For the person who cheated, it is a journey marked by self-deception and careful concealment. For the betrayed partner, it is a painful revelation that challenges their trust, their sense of self, and the very foundation of their relationship. The lies may offer temporary relief, but in the end, they only serve to deepen the emotional wounds and complicate the path to healing. Infidelity is rarely an act driven purely by a singular impulse. It is often rooted in a tangle of conflicted desires that make the decision to cheat all the more complicated. The person engaging in an affair might find themselves torn between their longing for something outside their relationship and the deeply ingrained loyalty they feel toward their partner. The emotions involved in infidelity are not black and white. They are often colored by a complex blend of passion, resentment, desire, and guilt. The affair doesn't necessarily begin with the intention to betray, but rather with a desperate attempt to fulfill an unmet need or to experience something that feels absent in their primary relationship. This emotional tug-of-war is what makes infidelity a complicated emotional journey, as the desire to maintain stability and commitment often clashes with the yearning for something new, exciting, or validating. One of the most significant conflicting desires that can lead to infidelity is the desire for novelty versus the security of commitment. In a long-term relationship, especially one that has lost some of its spark, it is easy to become disillusioned with the monotony that can creep in over time. The routine of daily life, from the shared responsibilities of household chores to the predictable exchanges between partners, can cause one to long for something different, something that reignites the excitement and novelty that was once present at the beginning of the relationship. This desire for novelty is often not rooted in dissatisfaction with the partner as a person, but rather in the yearning for the kind of emotional or physical intensity that the person may feel has diminished over time. When they find someone new who stirs those feelings of excitement, the temptation becomes almost irresistible. It's a search for an emotional high, something to break the monotony and make them feel alive again. The affair offers an escape, a brief reprieve from the mundane, but it simultaneously sets them on a path where they will have to confront the guilt of betraying the person who has stood by them. At the same time, there is the conflicting desire to preserve the stability and security that the committed relationship offers. In many cases, the person who cheats still has strong feelings for their partner, whether it's love, loyalty, or a sense of duty. Despite the emotional pull toward the affair, they may not want to leave their primary partner. There is often an underlying fear of the consequences of their actions, the loss of the relationship they have built over time, the risk of destroying the family dynamic, or the shame that comes with the betrayal. This creates a dichotomy in the mind of the person involved in infidelity, where they find themselves emotionally invested in both worlds. They may still enjoy the comfort and companionship of their primary relationship, yet feel an overwhelming pull toward the other person, someone who offers the thrill and emotional connection that is currently lacking at home. This internal conflict deepens when emotional attachment becomes involved. While physical attraction is often the initial spark for an affair, many individuals find themselves emotionally entwined with the person they are cheating with. What began as a casual fling or a momentary escape from their relationship can quickly escalate into a more complicated emotional involvement. The emotional connection with the affair partner may be intoxicating, as they offer the validation and attention that may have been missing from the primary relationship for some time. The cheater may feel truly understood and seen in a way that their partner no longer provides. This emotional intimacy can intensify the conflicted desires, making it harder to resist the pull of the affair. At this point, the person may experience feelings of love or attachment to the affair partner, which can add another layer of guilt and confusion. They might feel torn between the loyalty they owe to their partner and the connection they've developed with someone else. Moreover, the conflicting desires often involve a struggle for self-identity. The person cheating may be seeking something beyond the emotional or physical fulfillment offered by the affair. They might be searching for a sense of self that has been lost in the midst of their primary relationship. The dynamics of a long-term relationship can sometimes lead individuals to lose sight of their personal desires, goals, and passions. The affair can serve as a way to rediscover parts of themselves that have been overshadowed by the responsibilities and roles they've adopted in the relationship. In this case, the affair becomes not only a way to satisfy unmet desires but also a form of self-exploration. The cheater may feel like they are reclaiming a part of themselves that had been suppressed, leading to further conflict between their desires for both the familiar and the unfamiliar. The act of cheating itself becomes a manifestation of these inner contradictions. The individual may know deep down that what they are doing is wrong, yet they continue to pursue the affair, drawn in by the emotional and physical fulfillment it provides. The desire to maintain the security of their primary relationship is often at odds with the desire to experience something new, something that excites them in a way that their current relationship no longer does. Each action taken in the affair is a negotiation between these two worlds, the comfort of stability and the allure of the unknown. The cheater's inability to reconcile these conflicting desires often leads to profound inner turmoil, as they are left to navigate the consequences of their actions, knowing that their desires have irreversibly changed the course of their relationship. In the end, the conflicting desires involved in infidelity are a testament to the complexity of human emotion and relationships. They highlight the difficulty in reconciling one's own desires with the commitment and loyalty expected in a long-term relationship. The conflict between the desire for novelty and excitement and the pull of security and emotional attachment is not easily resolved, and it often results in a deep sense of confusion, guilt, and regret. It is this conflict that makes infidelity so emotionally charged, leaving individuals grappling with the consequences of their actions and trying to make sense of their desires and motivations. The aftermath of infidelity is a storm of emotions, consequences, and the fragile task of rebuilding trust, if that is even possible. Once the truth comes to light, the person who has been betrayed is left to confront the shattering reality of their partner's deception. The emotional fallout is profound, often leaving deep scars that take years to heal, if healing ever truly occurs. The feelings of betrayal, confusion, and heartbreak are just the surface of the complex emotional journey that both partners face in the wake of infidelity. For the person who cheated, the aftermath is a maze of guilt, regret, and a desperate attempt to reconcile their actions with the person they still care about, if not love. For the betrayed partner, the discovery of infidelity is nothing short of traumatic. The initial reaction is often a mix of disbelief and shock, as the mind struggles to make sense of the betrayal. The emotional foundation of the relationship is abruptly shattered, and what once felt like a secure, loving bond now seems like a house of cards that could collapse at any moment. Feelings of worthlessness and self-doubt often emerge. The person who has been cheated on may start questioning their own value, wondering if they were not good enough to keep their partner's attention or if there was something inherently wrong with them. The pain is often amplified by the knowledge that the person they trusted with their heart has not only been dishonest but has also shared emotional or physical intimacy with someone else. This feeling of inadequacy can lead to a loss of confidence, not only in their partner but also in their ability to trust people in general. The emotional devastation doesn't stop with feelings of worthlessness, it often grows into a complex web of anger, betrayal, and resentment. The betrayed partner may lash out, questioning their partner's choices, motivations, and actions. How could they have been deceived for so long? What did the affair mean? Did it reflect a deep dissatisfaction with the relationship, or was it simply a momentary lapse in judgment? The questions are endless, and the answers often elusive. The anger, however, is real and raw. It is fueled by the sense of personal violation that comes with discovering the lies. There is a deep resentment that builds up toward the person who has caused this pain, and in many cases, this anger becomes a barrier to healing. The betrayed partner might struggle with the desire for revenge or to make their partner feel the same pain they are experiencing. These emotions are natural, but they complicate the process of rebuilding trust and moving forward. For the person who cheated, the aftermath is equally tumultuous. The weight of their actions hangs over them like a dark cloud, constantly reminding them of the hurt they have caused. The guilt can be overwhelming, especially if the affair was not just about physical attraction but also emotional involvement. They may feel torn between the person they cheated with and the partner they have betrayed. In many cases, they feel regretful, wishing they could undo the betrayal and repair the damage they have done. However, the reality of the situation is that the affair has irrevocably changed their relationship, and no amount of regret can erase the pain their partner feels. The cheater must grapple with the fact that their actions have destroyed the trust that once existed between them and their partner. The realization that they have damaged something they once valued deeply can lead to a sense of self-loathing and shame. They may feel unworthy of forgiveness, even if they genuinely want to make amends. One of the most difficult aspects of the aftermath is the breakdown of trust. Trust is the cornerstone of any relationship, and once it is shattered, it is incredibly difficult to rebuild. For the betrayed partner, trusting their partner again seems almost impossible. Every action, every word spoken, is now under scrutiny. The cheater may try to apologize, express remorse, and prove their commitment to rebuilding the relationship, but the betrayed partner is left questioning whether they can ever truly trust them again. It is a painful process of waiting for the other shoe to drop, wondering if the cheater will stray again or if the lies will continue. Even the smallest sign of dishonesty can trigger a storm of emotions, bringing back the pain of the betrayal in a flash. For the person who cheated, the process of rebuilding trust is equally challenging. They must demonstrate consistent honesty, vulnerability, and patience to prove to their partner that they are worthy of a second chance. This often involves opening up about the details of the affair, answering difficult questions, and being completely transparent about their actions. While the cheater may be filled with remorse, they are often faced with the difficult task of showing their partner that they have truly changed, which can be an exhausting and emotionally draining process. They must also come to terms with the fact that the relationship, as it once was, no longer exists. The foundation has shifted, and both parties must work together to create a new understanding of what the relationship will be moving forward. The emotional fallout of infidelity can extend beyond the immediate partners involved. In many cases, friends and family may become aware of the situation, and this can create further complications. The cheater may find themselves ostracized or judged by others, adding an additional layer of guilt and shame. The betrayed partner may also face the challenge of dealing with the opinions of others, who may not fully understand the complexity of their situation or may take sides. The emotional landscape after infidelity becomes even more complicated as external pressures influence how each partner feels and reacts. Ultimately, the aftermath of infidelity is a difficult and painful process, one that requires time, patience, and a willingness to confront the emotional realities of what has happened. It is a journey of healing, not just between the two partners but within each individual as they come to terms with the trauma caused by the betrayal. For some, this process may lead to reconciliation, while for others, the damage is too great, and the relationship may come to an end. Regardless of the outcome, the emotional aftermath of infidelity leaves an indelible mark on both partners, altering the course of their relationship forever.